we need to see better drafting from EG, because I do think they have been behind from the word go in a number of these games, and Danny has not performed to the level that he did in the LCS playoffs, or really even near it, you know? Yeah. EG was not expected to win the LCS. They went on a huge tear, and Danny was playing out of his mind. So for them to be able to compete at the level that I think people were hoping and expecting, Danny has got to play better.
Yeah, because he's, I think, always been a really solid team fight player. His landing phase has always been, through his literally 1 year long career in pro play, like, it's always been his weak point, and that's fine. Like, you're allowed to have some weaknesses. You're an 18-year-old player, that's fine. You know, sometimes you get Flackett, who's just incredible the whole way through, and hey, congrats, EG, good scouting. But yeah, Danny, okay, sure, he's got some weak points, but yeah, I need to see his mid-game play at the level he was playing the mid-game this whole year.
Absolutely, and I do think his landing phase, you know, did improve from last year to this year in the LCS. Of course, there have been struggles here. You know, even just looking at the amount of deaths he had in the entire LCS playoff runs of 18 games, it was about as many deaths as he had against G2 in the 4 games against them in the group stage. Yeah. So, you know, he was getting punished a lot more, but not just in lane, you know, outside of lane, because obviously EG is losing a lot more. You know, you're just going to die more often when your team loses the team fights. But this will be a very interesting one. I want to see EG drafting with confidence. LeBlanc so far is up. Ari so far is up. Trading OPs is absolutely fine. Jojo Pyun forgoed picking that LeBlanc, you know, against G2 earlier when it was left open. I would have loved to see him, you know, slap that down. Of course, you have to be worried about things like the Lissandra counterpick, particularly Caps is great on that, so maybe that was the concern. But I don't think you beat these top teams by, you know, paying too much respect to them, by always worrying about everything that they could be doing. You've got to play what your strengths are, you've got to play with confidence, and just see what you can do.
Well, looking for confidence here from PSG Talon. Based on the way the games have played, I think you maybe favor EG very slightly in the matchup, but this is the battle. Like, this, to all expectations, is the fight for the spot in semifinals. We're all predicting G2, T1, RNG, but there's a 4th spot out there. It looks like PSG Talon and Evil Geniuses are the teams fighting for it, so you play with confidence. Okay, we got the 2 big early game AD carries at the table. Ezreal taken off the table right now. Of course, we've seen R, we've seen it answered, but saying, hey, Unified, it's on you.
And absolutely. I mean, this is one of those things where they know it's been a big pick for Danny. They're going to take away the Ezreal, and they're basically saying, we don't care which side of the mid lane matchup we get. Ari is still available. If you grab the Kai'Sa, this is something I would really like. I want to see Vulcan back towards the Nautilus. I do think he's been more effective when he's been playing that than on the Leona. I would love to see that pairing. Grab an Ari or LeBlanc, really whichever you're feeling more confident on here. I think Ari is that kind of higher priority pick these days. Most people do really think it has the edge, but LeBlanc is just something that is a Jojo Pyun specialty. It's when he's playing with confidence that he's at his best. You know, this is a guy, he has that swagger, he has that cockiness. Whether it's deserved or not, you know, that's something you can kind of debate. But so far, they're going to leave it off. They still can go 3rd pick mid. They're trying to, I think, make Bay show what they want to go with first. Diana would surprise me. You know, Graves, I think, alongside an AP mid, feels kind of like more their style. As Juhan has been relatively inactive, I would say, in the jungle, you know, both throughout the PCS playoffs as well as here. He is relatively low activity in the early stages. Yeah. Ari going to be the grab here. So now, yeah, I'm just really curious, is it going to be the LeBlanc answer from Jojo Pyun, or does he have something else? Is he going to be bringing out the Vex? That's something that, you know, we've seen a lot of teams doing. I don't really think it's a counter. I think it's like an answer.
Sure.
You know?
Right. Your lane's fine, and you're also a good champion.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, Nocturne hovering still. Will that be the jungle lock-in? Does give you a lot of silent pressure. No, we're going to see Graves come through. Okay. Almost certainly see the Umbral Graves version. And I like him. I like him, to be fair, a little bit more alongside someone like a Zoe, who's like much more poke-focused. But in general, lethality build, Dark Harvest, mid laner gets someone at 30%. You finish the job with the ulti. I think it's a very good synergy. Usually, you're not quite lethal enough just by yourself as a mid laner unless you're absurdly ahead. And at that point, what your comp is. So I think it does really fit well. Long range reach. Ezreal can do something similar. So a lot of these champions can help Bay if he can pop off.
Jojo Pyun going to be on that LeBlanc. Really excited to see this. That pairing, you know, with Inspired. Lisa and LeBlanc, it's a classic, really strong 2v2ing there around mid lane. Would like to see them contesting that. I do think that is where, you know, a lot of people are looking at EG having a significant edge. Bay and Juhan have not been some of the best performers in this event. You know, they have struggled, I think, at times, and EG, you know, have the champions to perhaps take advantage of that. I do really like the Karma ban here. You know, Ezreal people are looking at as this kind of weak side champion. It's mostly been picked with roamers and with tanks, but when paired with Karma, can be pretty dominant in that 2v2, especially against Kai'Sa, who's relatively short range, can be kind of poked out and harassed. Nautilus being taken away makes sense. I'm just curious to see if they're actually going to double ban tanks, if they'll ban out Leona as well. Like, you know, how heavily they want to do this. Because there is 4th pick, of course, here, you know, for EG. So you're expecting them to grab a tank support on 4, and then 5th pick for Impact. Because Impact has been one of the guys who has actually been, I think, making pretty good use of the counter picks. Even if he's not performing at the best in every single game with them, like his laning phase on Jackson and the Gwen was a little bit suspect. But, you know, he brought out the Mord, he brought out the Jax, he's brought out a number of picks, you know, really good answers that he's comfortable with and I think can perform well on. So saving 5th pick for him makes a lot of sense up against Hanabi, who has been the best performing player for him. Yeah, and I think EG right now are tunneling on the idea of engage. They got rid of the Karma, okay, whatever, but I think they're grabbing Leona, like right away, here. Vulcan's play it yet again. It'll be his 6th time on Leona. Of course, teams need engage. Actually, that's a hover. That's a hover. Yeah. And then Danny hovered that and Seraphine and Zoe in the previous game. So, hey, look, he's doing it again. Wow, got all 3, and then he's going to go ahead and grab Leona. I watch EG games. Facts. I know Danny's hovers. That's how much I watch EG games. Sometimes, and some of the games we wish we were watching. You know, it can hurt a little bit. Yeah. Now I gotta remember if like he's spelling anything with those. LSZ? I'm not sure. Yeah, no. I don't see it. So could be anything, right? Yeah, could be champions he likes, could be friends. But they are going to go Leona. Now we find out, you know, is it going to be some sort of an enchanter, some sort of a more lane dominant style that they're looking, or more what we are expecting, which is an additional engage support. You know, that has pretty much been everything we're seeing out of Kaiwing. GP ban, Gnar pick makes sense as a blind, and Impact's not the kind of guy to really go like Aurelia and those hyper-aggressive things. You know, often what we saw as an answer from Impact into this matchup was actually the Jace. You know, when you think back to like regional play, he would like those kind of picks. And I'm curious to see where he does take us as far as that goes. He played Rakan and Rel as engaged champions, so I don't love either of those lanes, to be honest, as long as it's an Ezreal. Bard is definitely a stronger lane. Yeah, definitely a stronger lane. Goes Rakan anyway. Okay. Again, I don't think this lane is outstanding. No. It is very hard for Ezreal to follow up on damage until you land W. You're not landing anything really on your spell combo there. Yeah. But if Rakan can go roam away, Ezreal's a pretty good 1v2. And Rakan in general is I feel like you're not picking for lane, right? You're kind of like sacking your lane, at least your kill potential, your ability to play dominant in that 2v2. More for the 5v5, more for some of these skirmishes here. Ooh. Tryndamere, a quick lock there from Impact. Has been very good on the Tryndamere, you know, regionally. Already brought it out one game here at MSI. Did win on that, was deathless as well, so had a strong performance. And this is an interesting comp here, you know, because you can play pretty heavily towards the 5v5. I do think their skirmishing is very strong. I think Inspired is going to be playing heavily towards the top side. You need to be playing behind Tryndamere, playing with LeBlanc. But I'd like to see EG playing through mid first and then moving to sides. Try to get LeBlanc ahead, unlock that, move out to the sides, snowball the Tryndamere. They're looking more for that. Whereas I think on the other side, you know, for PSG, there's a lot less ganking options. A lot of this feels like farm and scale to me. You know, when you're thinking about the Graves, the Ezreal, the Rakan, you know, Gnar is even more of just kind of that later stage pick. So we'll see what PSG wants to do, but not a lot of great ganking options here for Juhan unless, you know, the EG bot lane are really overextended and the Rakan can kind of have that gank assist. I do think it'll be difficult for Juhan to really get much done as far as the ganks are concerned. So they're just going to try to have to play, you know, a bit more stable and hope that their skirmishing can kind of win out in the later stages, which is really how they've won all their games. When you look at all the wins that they got in group stage, it was relatively even early games. They win a fight, they get Baron, they win the game. If that doesn't happen, generally PSG doesn't win. We'll see if they can do it here, though. Mid-game is going to be where our eyes are peeled. Expected battle for 4th. The expected battle for the last spot in semifinals, if everything else goes to expectation, goes according to seeding. And I think these teams know this coming in. Right? They both knocked down the Vietnamese representatives yesterday in Saigon Buffalo. And I think your eyes are on like, yeah, we know how good G2 is. We know how good everyone else is. This is the team that we are stratting against the most. This is the team we are going to prep against the most. Then we'll see our semi-opponent and go from there. If I'm either of these teams like GMs or head coaches, like this is the team I am prepping like 80% of my time on. Yeah, absolutely. This is a must-win for these teams. It is so incredibly important because the top 3 have looked ridiculously dominant, right? You just cannot expect to get a win for sure off of T1 or G2 or RNG. So you really have to take down PSG. You really have to take down Saigon Buffalo. You really have to take down EG if you're one of those bottom 3 teams. And now we get to see level 1. Not terribly spicy. I think no one crossed over except for the Tryndamere here, who got himself in. And otherwise, just wards in the river. And not going to be too much. It's going to be, once again, Vulcan taking his
I don't think he actually put a ward down, recalled sweeper. So if you put a ward down and then recall and buy sweeper, your sweeper's not up until jungle monsters spawn. If you don't put a ward down, you switch sweeper right away, you can clear deep wards in your own jungle. So if they think there is an early aggressive play, or if they think, you know, someone ran over and put a ward down on the bottom brush, which by the way they did, for example, you can sweep it away, you know, before minions crash and before you do anything. And indeed, that's why he didn't put a ward down with sweeper early. They now get brushed.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, so many of these wards have become very, very common that it's one of those things where you've got to expect it. You've got to look towards your level 1 prep. Level 1 prep for warding is one of the easiest things coaches and analysts can do, because you literally just go to level 1, you take a screenshot of pre-minion spawn, you look at the common warding spots. Some teams do get pretty lazy with the variants and are doing the same things almost every single game. So it is important to do that prep and to try to have that early knowledge on where they may be playing towards.
Yep, it's good to see, especially if you ever find, you know, later on warding habits like, oh, you know, the mid laner only rewards in the 4th wave, we can get him on the 3rd, he'll never reward this one. You know, if you like spend more time, you have more analysts, and you're like, I know more of your habits, like that can be really, really cool for you.
And I think that's one of the things where you can really get an advantage by playing atypical, right? By being one of those players that doesn't do the same thing every time. You know, if you're a jungler who's willing to actually do an inefficient path to have a gank at an unexpected timing, that's something that's a lot harder to play around. You know, even if only 1 of every 4 games you're going for, you know, a weird path into an early gank, people have to play with respect to that, which can limit the advantages that people are able to create, you know, in the laning phase. They have to pay respect to the possibility of those types of plays. And if there was one thing I would be critical of Inspired, it is that he is you know, a very farm-heavy style jungler. You know, and as a result, he is more predictable. I think he's been performing incredibly well, but he is not, you know, the same kind of style as you when you look at like a Jankos, who's mixing it up constantly with weird ganks. Yeah,
I remember when G2 played EG earlier today, Jankos had 2 ganks off and was down half the camp. It's like, you're on Wukong. One of them was a kill.
Efficient ganks?
Yeah, or a flash, I guess, for us. But yeah, really, really cool stuff. So we get to see what's up next here. EG do indeed get lane priority. Not really a surprise. Leona Kaisa should have pressure, and Inspired. 5
looking for a dive.
Skips Garomp. Scuttle's up right now, but they're going for the dive. Will it be enough is the question. He's not going to find the Zenith Blade, and that's time to leave. Ahri had roamed down as well, but that should have been called out. Of course, hit the Scryer's Bloom as well. Ultimately, nothing lost. Maybe a wave for Bay as he keeps back.
Yeah, gonna go for that. I mean, won't be much missed here at all, though, for Inspired. They're gonna move up and help him get the Scuttle. He can go back to his Gromp, of course. But swing and a miss there on the early try from EG. It's a tough one to pull off because it is Cleanse and Exhaust. You know, even if you flash Q in, then you're going to die on the way out, pretty much guaranteed. So I think the thought is you have to hit the Zenith Blade to start this because you need to be able to flash out before you die to the tower to not give a kill over. You know, so EG not going to start that off with Vulcan's Flash. Play it for the higher risk, kind of higher reward. Doesn't pay off this time, but really not much of a cost besides a couple seconds there from Inspired. You can see his base is going to be a little bit behind that of Juhan, so Juhan will be out on the map here a bit faster.
You know, ultimately, going to be just chilling here with the waves going down. Got a nice Dark Shield pickup on one side, a Doran's Ring, slightly more expensive on the other, plus boots. And we'll see if there's going to be anything spicy going on down there as you get a little bit of pushback now for the PSG bottom lane as the wave is kind of collecting up. Juhan is around, gets rid of a zombie ward, so that's actually vision known. We know Graves' bot side. I think with the lingering vision, should actually know he controlled that brush and playing really close attention. So maybe that could be played around. That could be hard to track if you're busy laning.
They pinged it. They pinged the brush. You know, there's a very high chance. And if you're really on top of it and you hit tab as soon as Graves actually shows, you can see there's a pink ward in his inventory. You know, you can kind of intuit that it may be placed around there. But very clearly, they are aware of it. They pinged the brush, and Danny didn't drop his trinket ward into river, so that tells me that they think there is a pretty good chance it is in that brush. You should be able to know where he is, generally speaking, just based off the camp respawns, because Graves, you know, is a pretty farm-heavy jungler. The Krug's going to be the first camp to respawn, so he's going to be playing towards bot side. Of course, Inspired's going to be clearing top towards bot. Took down his Krugs already. He's over there on Raptors. So both junglers, you know, pretty much at parity here, and all things really even very early on, besides that CS advantage for Danny down in the bot lane.
Which is good to see. EG pressed the 5 minutes mark. We're 4 EG games in with 1 death per 5 minutes. I'll keep that one tracked because it was a habit in the LCS play. That's why I brought up the topic in the first place, because even against some of the LCS's best, right, he was getting punished quite a lot in the early games. And obviously the competition gets stiffer when you play against the world's best, and at least in the Rumble stage, holding up reasonably well here.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't think Danny has been, a massive liability, in the Rumble stage, but he has not performed to the level that people expect. It is hard to have those heavy expectations on a really young player. This is his first time to an international event, but this is a guy who did like 31% of his team's damage, right? Like he was the team's win condition come team fight time. Absolutely. They funnel all their resources into him. And when you're looking more towards, MSI, there was one Israel game where it kind of ended up being that way, but mostly it's been playing more heavily, I think, around picks for impact, been playing more heavily around mid and jungle, and as JoJo's been stepping up, he's been getting more involved.
Yeah.
But we'll see if Danny, can have that kind of pop-off game that maybe builds his confidence and kind of springboards him into a better second round-robin performance.
Right, yeah, a big identity for EG when they won the LCS was they just were really, really focused around playing bot lane. They were always prioritizing giving him farm, donating Rift Heralds, donating towers and whatnot. And yeah, he popped off in damage and whatnot. But yeah, here at MSI, just sub 26% damage share, so, 6 percentage points below what he was doing in spring playoffs. Like, obviously pretty meaningful difference there. But we have seen Inspired and Impact play very, very well. Jojopyeon, Ward's one, but Pei's going to find the charm and do a whole lot of damage. Will it be the rest, though, as Juhan's going to be busy taking the red buff away, so just a trade of damage, and it's might to take red.
And this is a really smart invade because of what's happening on top side, as we'll see a little trade there, because, Hanabi had the push, he's playing TP, he gets the shove in, he gets the early tabbies by, Impact has not based or bought, and the wave is at his tower, so he can't really move to help. Gonna force the ulti there. Nice chain from Jojopyeon, but it's just a smart invade because there's not really a lot of risk, right? If you try to contest, Impact's gonna lose his wave. He hasn't bought, so he's relatively weak. So PSG are really safe to do that. Inspired late to make the counter invade. They do have push on bot, but this may result in a fight. Remember, Ahri has no ult, so if she joins, will not be as strong.
Ulti on a ward, but smiteable.
Yeah.
Juhan did not have smite available, and I think that was actually a trackable smite, knowing that his item was out of inventory. If you're really paying attention, you know how many smite charges you get, what the cooldowns are, and pretty easy claim for Inspired.
And I just like that play because they force the Ahri's ult mid, right? I think if you haven't forced Ahri's ult, then that's pretty risky. Easy ult over into the Raptors pit, 2 ulti charges, and you're there. You can try to contest, maybe try to make something happen, but because that is down, it's very unlikely that Bey is actually going to try to move when he's getting pushed in and has no ulti available. So relatively safe, worst case, you lose out on the smite, but don't think there was really any risk with first move from bot and no ult on Ahri of dying. So nicely done there.
As heard from the analyst desk, if nothing too crazy goes on in the bottom lane, they are expecting an EG victory, but we also know PSG Town loves their mid game and getting ready for that one,
Yeah.
and so they are cruising towards their own mid game.
And Unified, has evened out the farm. Obviously, Danny, was a bit ahead, but Kaiwing was able to actually hold the wave, even that out, get a little bit of a freeze. So very good things happening for PSG in the bot lane as well. And Unified has been really kind of the key member for them, when you look towards the PCS. I think at MSI, it's been more about Hanabi. He's been kind of their best performer. But Unified is the guy that was winning them a lot of the games, was a massive contributor in the team fights. Could be a smite fight.
First scuttle fight should be improved smite for both junglers here. 900 claim, nicely done by Juhan. Inspired forced out. Now the team fight happens. Vulcan low finds it done. Healed right back out. Kaiwing able to get away as well, but a chase in. And the cleanse and the charm's not going to be enough. A kick flash in. Juhan's going to drop. You may have gotten a herald, but EG grabbed 2 scalps.
Nicely done by EG. The kick flash grabbing that second kill, and Impact flashing in to grab the first one there. Really well done. Both the kills go towards these big carries here for EG, Jojo, as well as Danny, and they can even move towards the Dragon on the bottom side. The Herald did go to Juhan, but Inspired, I think, was about a split second away from his smite charge being up. It may have come up right as it died, but it was really, really close. Impact still has his ultimate, wants to get this pushed in, but of course doesn't want to have to waste the ulti to do so. But EG are going to be able to collect a couple kills, are going to be able to grab the Dragon. We'll watch this one more time. Yeah, you can see the smite is still on cooldown. It's came up right as it died. Either way, they go into Vulcan, but Vulcan very tanky here. Kaiwing gets low. The E followed up by the flash there from Impact, gets into the backline, finishes him off, and then Inspired finding Juhan. Q, kick flash, right back into the waiting arms of Danny and Jojo. Grabbing those kills, really big here for EG. And off to the races with the early Dragon as well.
Yeah, an important thing to track then is when you get the first Herald, do you have an injured turret, right? You'd love to find first turret, get 3 plates out of the crash from it being, pretty injured, and you kind of turn that one around. Because Herald itself, okay, baseline value 320 gold, right? Charges in, kills 2 plates, Juhan gets 1, Unify gets the other one. Okay, great, 320. Doesn't tie the game up. But if you knock down a turret with that one, you add 650 to that number, and you're like, oh, that's a good 1,000 gold. we're back in this one. So mid lane has lost one plate, but top and bottom mostly unscratched, means this is likely to be that 300 gold Herald charge and not the 1,000 gold.
Yeah, very likely. Just the one plate off of mid lane. So EG has been doing pretty well in these lanes. The farm slightly in the favor of PSG though, and that's keeping gold close here. As Impact, we'll see if he commits this. I don't think he will. But as soon as he goes mini, trying to take an aggressive trade there, if you get lucky with a couple crits, that can turn into an all-in potentially. But without Ghost and with Hanabi having Flash, it's very unlikely that it was going to be more than just a good trade there from Impact.
You ultimately trade your health bar down. You do have more sustain. Of course, yes, we have Fleet Footwork on Gnar, but ranged shots don't do that much against minions. Obviously, you can kite it pretty well. Rush the Steel Cats because Trend is very auto-attack focused. But this is how you play this matchup. Same with kind of Aurelia, where you take a trade where you lose similar amounts of health, but you get more back, and then that trade is good for you.
Gore Drinker already finished up here for Inspired pretty early on. Impact getting shoved out, and Hanabi about to mega, but looks like it's just kind of prepping for this scuttle. We'll see if EG actually want to fight over this. I mean, I don't think there's really any need to. They are moving up to just try to push in this wave once again, but Danny going to be able to collect solo gold on that plate down in bot side. And Inspired just trying to control some vision here, around mid lane. It kind of has been this battle back and forth. PSG keeping vision down between mid and bot as EG are trying to move down here and threaten a 4-man dive.
Ooh.
But Juhan's coming out of base, and we see Bay moving as well.
Bit low on mana, though deceptively high. Ult's going to come across onto 2. They find a slow. There's a triple knock-up. Beautifully done, but it's going to be enough anyway. Inspired, look for the kick into the wall. Doesn't get much done. And it's going to be an escape there. PSG Talon survive against 4.
Nicely done by PSG Talon. Unified not even having to use the flash, did cleanse just the ulti slow, and then was able to avoid enough of the CC. And Kaiwing with a really good engage there, knocking up multiple members, getting them with the charm. And now off of that health advantage, they're trying to get more here from this Herald. You can see Vulcan low on health, but it is shadowing them just to try to make sure there's no sort of a dive coming through. As soon as he realizes it's just going to be the initial crash, he starts the recall. Going to head right back to base, but a good bit of mitigation there from PSG, because if you lose the bot lane, if you lose those plates following that, it's going to put EG way ahead.
Oh, 1K still remains the difference, and yeah, just that two plate crash, right? So EG definitely feeling comfortable. You can kind of tell, though, this is the game where both teams are taking it incredibly seriously. The fact that it's 2 kills at about 14 minutes. Anytime you have like an absurdly low kill game, that's the one where everyone's like, okay, but this is when it really happens. Like, I feel like game 1 of playoffs is so often like that, where it's just like, okay, now it's time.
Almost always.
And everyone's just like so serious and like they're not willing to go for broke, and it's like, first blood in 12 minutes.
I mean, you don't want to be the guy to cost your team the game, right?
Yep.
And sometimes it does become about, playing to not lose. And that's why you sometimes need one of those players who just has that supreme confidence to go for it. Because if a team is not willing to make that play themselves, you can get an advantage by being the ones to set up the play, to preempt it, to try to really take advantage of someone playing passive.
Yeah, it's what Gumiuchi said about their game 1 loss to G2, where he came in like, G2 were known as a T1 killer. It's like I was nervous coming into it, and I just didn't play as well as I should have. Like, there were so many things I could have done that I didn't because it's G2.
But what if it goes wrong?
They're scary, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's against the
Caps
21.
is pretty scary to be fair.
I mean, Caps is maybe the best player in the world right now. You can quote me on that. That man is amazing. But like, he's against a 21-year-old rookie. Like, Guma, you can do this, man. You've been doing it, right? But he was afraid because the nameplate's over. There's a G2 in front. That's scary. And Flacket's really good. I want to be clear about that one.
Yep.
And here's PSG EG, and they're like, but this is the battle for 4th. Like, this is playoffs. This is really important. I'm scared.
Yeah, and sometimes the other side of that is that if you have the read that you outscale, you don't have to do anything. You're just chilling, right? And I'm not sure if both of these teams kind of have that read, or if it is more just kind of playing a little bit nervous. At the same time, EG is getting things from this game being played slowly. Trendemir scales very, very well. You can get towards that Gale Force, start to really have that all-in threat on Hanabi in the side lane. That's kind of what they are looking for up in that top lane. But Graves scaling farm jungler here. Ezreal going to be a threat, going to be hard to lock down in the later stages. So we'll see who can kind of get more.
Here we go, got a fight going on here. Impact on 100 HP, goes with the ulti right at the right time.
He's got to back up.
Yep, easily kites him away. Thank you to the hyper move speed, but now a 4-on-4 on the bottom side. Second dragon it would be for EG. That's going to be a stun and an easy claim. Smite didn't come through, but they get it all the same. EG sit on this 1,000 gold lead, growing slightly, and now 26-minute Dragon Soul, Ocean.
Yep, really nicely played by Vulcan there, actually. I really like the ultimate because PSG was not posturing to fight. They were posturing just to steal. So you see Juhan is basically playing the very edge of his smite range. So all he had to do is just drop the Leona ulti, threaten the engage. Juhan jumps back. That means he's not going to be able to actually contest the smite. They get it. Yes, they will take down mid lane, but again, EG doing EG things. Danny gets all of the gold off of that bot lane tower, which is more valuable than that shared gold that you're going to kind of get through mid.
Last time I saw bot lane, Danny was down 8 CS with an equal wave. I look back, he's up 30 and got a solo turret.
Yeah,
I don't know what
rich.
Unified went and did, but he stopped farming for the last 4 minutes straight.
Yeah, I mean, they've just kind of been grouped, right? You know, they moved out towards that dragon. They were playing through mid, not through bot. EG had access to bot lane, so Danny was able to actually push out that wave before moving over. You know, then after the dragon, Danny goes back to bot. Where does Unified go? He groups with the team. He goes over towards mid. You know, this is a very classic EG strategy. They prioritize, you know, getting solo gold on Danny, and we'll see. You know, now that he has been set up for success, can he actually pay that back to the team? Can he have that big pop-off game that everyone is looking for, hoping for here, you know, for those LCS fans? Up towards topside now, stock standard stuff. EG gonna move him around the map, try to get him as much gold as possible, but Juhan, of course, in the area, looking to cover, keep base safe on up on the top side, and we'll be playing heavily for vision control as the Umbral Glaive, and that is gonna help a lot here to deny these wards, and also has, of course, the second Herald that they could, you know, look to try to crash on top. You see the assist pings up towards top, and you see Juhan heading up there. I think that's what they're going to be looking for.
Danny knocks down a ward, gets back up to the top side of the map, and as long as he doesn't die to the Ahri, and with heal, flash, ult reflexes, I mean, cleanse is kind of the ideal against Ahri to get out of the charm and get away, but as long as he plays safe enough, should be okay. Chain, nice try. Wants to put it to Unify, doesn't get it. Didn't juke left quickly enough. And just going to take some damage to the play. Asselstein back up here. We sit at this 1,000 gold difference. Teams have traded turrets, they've traded farm. We still have a 30 CSD in the bottom lane because of funnels from EG for the most part. Kaiwing goes in for wards. They're going to find that first on, and here comes the fight. Charm, knock up on a one. Danny's here as well. Inspired. Gets out with his flash.
EG have to run. TP's coming through. They don't have one.
Shot Barrage going to tag Danny for a bit of damage. Little TL flare.
That's actually really good, though, for EG. You trade flashes on your junglers. You force out the TP, which now gives Impact the ability to kind of play more aggressively in that side lane. Hanabi here, going to push Impact back, but see if it amounts to anything more. Don't expect it to, and they're going to drop Herald topside, so they will get that crash. They will take down the tower. No local tower gold, though, actually going the way of PSG, so not going to get too much from it, unfortunately, for them.
Yep, the rule is Shelly's charges, globally shelled turret plates.
Ooh, they're going to go for this.
Does not share the tower itself.
Oh, Jojo got spotted.
On a ward. Jojo got seen, but a 1v1 wasn't afraid, but the 2v1's going to be enough. Ignite takes him down. Kill number 3 for Evil Geniuses.
The burst coming through there. The isolated Q from the Kai'Sa so much, plus the Ignite, the electric procs from Jojo. They light up Bay. They get the ulti off him and get the kill. Danny does not have to expend his own ultimate and only the Ignite used. So really, really nice. They're going to get to push in this wave as well, deny more farm. Things looking good here for EG, but the gold's still very close. And this is one of those games that it's playing at a slow enough pace that one fight really can decide it, right? Yes, EG has the advantage here. Yes, they're going to be slightly ahead in gold. They're going to be setting up for this third dragon. But if PSG wins this next fight at the dragon and gets a Baron off of it, like all of a sudden, your lead doesn't matter anymore. So EG gonna really have to execute here. They do have the 2-item spike here on Danny earlier than Unified has finished his, and if Unified does not have that Muramana prior to the dragon fight, it's possible that PSG just decide to actually give it up and wait for the soul point.
Yeah, which is obviously scary because now
it is very scary.
You know,
even a steal.
Right. Yeah. If you play it poorly 5 minutes from now, Ocean Soul is, you know, it quintuples the lead basically of the game as it is right now, which to be fair is quite small, but yeah, it does meaningfully change quite a lot about the game state.
Yeah, and I think it's really, really big for the side lane for Tryndamere because Gnar is not putting out such an impressive amount of damage that you're able to really kind of power through that. I do think that becomes very difficult. Impact, of course, has had the Gale Force for a while. He has both the sums available, Juhan Inspired. They're the ones missing Flash. EG has first move in the river. They're controlling vision here around that dragon pit. But of course, the scuttle was grabbed by PSG. Impact threatening the flank, but Hanabi does see him.
He gets back over the wall, still spotted by the sweeper though. They know he finally gets out of the brush. Information gained. Dragon alive now. Vulcan would be the primary engage
here. Mid again. You know, PSG is not really prioritizing the waves. This is the same problem they had last time, where, you know, they gave up bot push. EG pushes that in. Again, PSG not contesting mid, so now they just give up the wave. EG are on the dragon here. Jojo on the side.
Close to Mega. Juhan wants to get the steal. He's going to try. Claim by Inspired and Impact. Goes in, finds one, the crit. Now here comes the engage again. A huge charm. Triple Gnar onto 3. And that's going to be a kill taken down. Jojo Pyun low, gets the shield, gets away. Unified staying alive. Kaiwing now chased around. Should find it. Impact just barely. Low on health, but might get away from Hanabi as Jojo Pyun still in for the damage. Hanabi gets the house over the wall and trades him back. Still though, 3-2 favoring EG. The Dragon Soul point as well. Victory for the LCS squad.
Yeah, things going well for EG, but big plays from Hanabi prevent that from being an absolute disaster here. You can see it's the attempt at the smite steal over the wall a little bit early there from Juhan, and then Impact preying on that Graves. The engage here really nice from the Rakan. Kaiwing goes in, and Hanabi slams it home, dunking Danny down. Can't actually get the flash off to escape, and then Impact playing really well, gets the chase down, juking back and forth, does have the E come back up, but house over the wall. Hanabi guesses well, gets another kill for his team. 2 kills for him. Woo. And he put out a lot of damage there, and Danny again, you know, CC'd 100-0. Kaiwing and Hanabi showing off that engage. You have got to be careful because he's not playing cleanse. He doesn't really have the ability to get out of there if he gets caught by the initial part of the CC chain. Unless they can keep him away, the rest is coming through.
You mentioned the item spikes. Just now did Muramana come through for Unified, so the difference in farm, definitely relevant, right? He could have been a bigger threat, could have maybe gotten that a little bit more done and maybe changed the calculus around, maybe 3-2 in their favor instead. But we look back at the game, and it's a 2,000 gold difference with, call it 1,000 gold of stats from the 3 Dragons.
Yeah.
Like, it's not trivial, but it's not massive, right? It's just like, okay, you know, 5-on-5 is like a 2.53k gold lead for EG. Like, that's winnable, it's tough, but it's winnable. But the point is that Ocean Soul is just over 3 minutes away. And we have yet to see PSG really win the smite fights when they have existed. It's been Inspired getting the better of it when they both had a fair shot at it. A lot of them CC'd away. You know, nothing really against Juhan here, but he hasn't gotten the steal yet.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, things are definitely getting scary here. Well, I think Juhan was spotted. Yeah, you can see the question mark there. Was spotted the corner of Jojo's eye. EG shoving in mid here. They know jungle is towards top, mid is towards top, so they have the man advantage mid. They'll push this in. They'll use that to secure vision here in that barren area. Because it's about that time. You know, if you win a fight here, it's definitely possible to be taken. If one team overloads the other side of the map, you can threaten the rush down here. Kai'Sa really high DPS, who has the PD and the Kraken. Unified feeling a bit worried about that, does use the ultimate to check, and Impact just moving forward here.
And Shirelli for the disengage, though. Impact gonna take some health damage, but not drop. Saves his own ulti. He gets a, I believe, 90-second cooldown off the Shirellis, maybe 2 minutes, but it will be back in time for the Dragon. Nice damage from Jojo. Pyun's gonna land for a stun. Unified gonna cleanse. Charm. Kaiwing not gonna go in. That'll be an ulti down again.
Yeah, ulti down. Jojo gotta be a little bit careful here. Will jump back. One critical thing to note, you know, EG only 2,000 gold ahead, but objective bounties have spawned because of that 3 Dragon lead here. So PSG, you know, you cannot ignore the push in the side lane here. If Hanabi's going to be shoving up, if he's going to be on that split push duty, every tower is that much more valuable. And if EG were to lose a fight, were to lose a smite fight, it's that much more punishing. You know, this new system does allow for a lot more of those potential comebacks as a result.
And Outer Turret goes from being worth 500 to being worth 1k. Definitely does improve the amount of comeback you can get, but obviously you look at the scoreboard, you definitely do favor EG, but yes, does PSG play blameless from now? Right? Does EG fail to keep their lanes under wraps, basically, is the question.
Yeah, and I think for EG, you know, we're kind of trying to wait and see, you know, how close can they get to those next items. You know, i.e., big one for Danny. You know, if we can get that second item completed here as well for Jojo, that would be really big. Inspired and Impact have already completed theirs. The Death Dance as well as the Navori Quick Blades are going to be really, really big. Navori Quick Blades, especially I think since the nerfs to Tryndamere, you know, the kind of reduction of cooldown that you've got back for those crits, you know, it's more important. It really does allow you to stick to some of these members that are pretty slippery over on the PSG side.
Especially when they're quite tanky, right? Random one's done for Hanabi on 2. Looking for the play now. Vulcan gonna lock up 1. Hanabi gonna stay alive though. Mega Gnar quite tanky. And Vulcan now out of cooldowns. Here comes Bay. Charms on the 1. Jojo Pyun may stay alive. Zonya's immune to the damage. Knock up for Kaiwing. Here comes Impact. Mega Gnar hits nothing. And in goes Impact. In goes Inspire. They've got 1 so far. Juhan's next. 3 down for Danny. Tryndamere finds the 4th. EG won the fight they needed.
Jojo
now what
more.
do they want? Is it Bear Baron is a Dragon Souls that base. Anything that EG wants, they can plot and they can claim. Hanabi should drop an ace for Evil Geniuses.
5-0 ace for EG, a huge win for them. They're gonna get multiple towers. They're gonna get the Baron. They're gonna get the Ocean Soul. You asked what they want it all here. Tryndamere will solo up the Dragon. Kai'Sa and Lee Sin will two-man the Baron. And this game is all of a sudden feeling all but over unless we can see some sort of a miracle steal from Unified. He has the Ezreal ult. That's kind of what you're hoping for at this point, but not even going to shoot it until just now, and shouldn't be able to steal because Inspired does have Smite.
Where there's a will, there's a way. Thankfully, Inspired did not early Smite. Doesn't pull over versus Danny. We're going to be fine there. No Baron secure. So, 7,000 gold, and Ocean Soul and Vulcan starts it up.
Yeah, and so much of this is just about the pressure that they're actually putting down here on Hanabi. You know, Vulcan starting it up. They get the initial chunk. Bae's coming in from behind, lands the charm onto JoJo. But then you see Hanabi here. You know, they go in onto him, flashing through, and Impact, the sidestep there on the Gnar ulti was so nice. He popped the Ghost. He's going in with the Gale Force, and Hanabi's thinking, Mega Gnar's going to time out. I need to actually stun Impact. As soon as that is down, there is no more threat for PSG. The carries pile in. Danny's flashing forward. JoJo's going forward, and they're finishing off those kills. It's such a difference between those two fights just because we couldn't see the big engage from the Rakan comboed with the Gnar, and now EG have everything they need to cleanly close this game.
I don't know if you mentioned it, but the ultimates for Ezreal and Rakan were down barely. Like 5 seconds left in those, starting that fight. So that scuffle we had at 90 seconds till Baron, till Dragon, like, if that was up, Kaiwing CC locks Jojipyeon, he dies before he gets to Zonius or whatever. Like, I think that actually turns into a kill. But didn't get locked down, right? And I think so much that would have changed if the fight was 5 seconds later, or they hadn't burned ults for nothing in the prior one. So, you know, really unfortunate for PSG, but EG get the timing and they win the fight cleanly.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you have to give credit, you know, to Impact for that little bit of pressure he did put on mid lane that forced them to kind of respect that. You know, it was the Strelia's popped early, and then I think Kaiwing got a little bit nervous that they were going to commit to Unified. He popped the ulti to kind of dissuade EG from going forward. And that being down, these tight timings can mean a lot here. EG will take the quick reset. Haven't taken too much just yet. But I think it may be IE on base. No, not quite for Danny. But you do see the Shadow Flames complete there for JoJo. Stopwatch in for him. Stopwatch in for Inspired. The luxury items starting to come through. And it's the Jojopyeon classic. He's always going to upgrade the Dark Seal whenever he sees an opportunity.
Yep. And as the only AP threat in the team, Shadow Flame, I dare you to buy MR. Go, please, buy MR against Tryndamere, Lee Sin, and Kai'Sa. Like, please, right? Go buy a Hexdrinker. I dare you. I'd love for you to do that and let my carries kill you even faster. So, goes for the flat pen build, says, please build wrong.
Yep, and it puts so much pressure, I think, on Kaiwing to have a perfect exhaust because Unified is building armor. You know, he is not going to be building that Hexdrinker. He has no HP, doesn't really have any survivability there, no MR. So you've got to watch out for JoJo, who has the ability to threaten that 100-0 at this point.
Force the Gale Force out and an ult out of the Leona. It might be enough to knock down the turret, but Danny gonna play respectfully. You know, Charm. I can't flash, but still, Charm W could always be a possible.
And EG, I think, are trying to play for this on the next wave because Inspired's pushing in mid. You know, they were in the 4v5, so I'm not really looking to fight there. Hanabi cancels the base, though. He's still in Mega. But EG, until you see someone mid, you play respectful. They do now see them there in mid. Yes, the Baron will expire, but they're going to be able to clean up this low HP tower and continue taking away the enemy jungle. You know, red buff has respawned. They can grab that up here for Danny, and he has got to be getting very close to the IE. He did, in fact, take the pit stop for the LDR on 3. A lot of armor there on the Gnar. Of course, Frozen Heart being built up by Unified, so I think it's a respectable choice, but when he hits the IE, it's going to be a massive spike.
Yeah, it's going to look really good for him. He's going to be on 4 items pretty soon, and of course, Unified, that we get some haste, is just kind of building more defensively, and will not have that burst damage. It's the wrong build. Obviously, he's against quite a lot of dive, but just, you know, the tail of these 80 carries, you've got a 60 CS lead in the bottom lane now, 5 kills. There is the IE, and he's on towards the QSS for Hexdrinker.
Yeah. I think QSS would make a lot of sense here. You know, try to be able to reposition. You know, if you do get CC'd up, if you do get caught by that Mega Gnar, it is very important because they certainly have the burst to take you down if they can CC chain, things like Charm, things like Mega Gnar. You know, very, very dangerous. I will say, Bae, you know, he is going kind of that more utility style build, which is very common for Ahri. But when you do go Everfrost Zonias, when you go CDR Boots, your 100-0 threat is a lot lower than with some of these other builds. And when you combo that with the fact that they are behind and there is Ocean Soul on the other team, It makes it really hard to see kind of the comeback potential here, barring anything other than the perfect Mega Gnar, the perfect engage from Rakan where EG are stacked up, because I think that's going to be what it takes really at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree. Would like to see maybe a slightly squishier build from an assassin.
Me too.
Who's going to be so easy to get away from stuff, but whatever. Not story of the game really is item builds. I think it's close enough in most cases that it's who's played better League of Legends, and it's been pretty securely EG. Every single team fight's been EG favored. Every objective that's ultimately mattered has been favored for them as well. Obviously the 4-0 run in Dragons, but now we will have a disjointed Baron versus Elder. That's a 1-for-1 that EG don't really want to give up, so we'll see how they play it out.
Yeah, and usually what ends up happening, these days is the team that's behind threatens going to Baron. But the problem is you just have one person, can kind of solo the other side, and then you can try to dissuade over by that Baron or threaten to steal over the wall and take both. So we'll see what they're going to try to go for here. But EG are just completing so many important items. The QSS we mentioned is through. GA is through. Third item completed now for Impact. There are some good completions on the other side. Void Staff. We see the Chem Punk Chainsword coming through, the Frozen Heart. So a lot of people completing these items, but EG's carries are just a lot stronger right now. And in particular, Danny just has a massive lead. He's a good 80 CS up, closing in on the Flame Horizon, plus has 5 kills to his name and all the tower gold.
Yeah, he's going to feel pretty good about this one. As long as the hands are there, QSS Flash get away from the engage, and the man will stay alive. So now we see what's next up. Impact still marking off to the side, knows with Flash, Ghost, Gale Force, ulti, like, he shouldn't die for free off anything. The man has like 7 ways of getting out to make sure it's going to be okay. And now we just keep ticking down until the epic objectives come up. And it's going to force some kind of altercation. Mid lane wave belongs to PSG right now.
But EG could just rush this because Hanabi just timed out of the Mega Gnar. I think you just started up immediately and you say, all right, you don't have time to actually build your Rage Bar. He's on cooldown, so EG recognized this. JoJo's just going to play on zoning duty, and they're just going to rush this. PSG, I mean, you can try to force the fight, but it's still into Ocean Soul.
He's spot the Graves. He's going to try, not going to find it. There's Elder Dragon. This could be an easy fight for EG. Already Trin's knocked down. The Impact misses the ulti, but 2 in for JoJo so far. 3rd in for the Kaisa, and it's time for 4 and 5. Unified, turns out you're a solo artist here. Gonna dodge the Q, but there's nothing else he can really do about this one. The wave's gonna crash in towards the base, and it might be enough time to end the game.
Yeah, I think they've got time here. 40 seconds on Bay and Hanabi. That's a long time, and Vulcan here trying to stop the recall out of the base. If he spots him here, it is absolutely all over, and they find him.
They find him. They're gonna get the kill. A kick into the base. Here, you're home. No, it's our home. You're gonna drop for this one. There's the final kill, the final nail in the coffin. 3-6. And EG are going to walk over PSG Talon. They do not go Nexus turrets, though. They say time is not enough. Double inhibitor and a reset looking at Baron is the play. They will not end just yet.
Yeah, not wanting to risk any sort of a throw at the Nexus here as the respawns are coming through. Will Danny get spotted here? Stop that reset. No, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. They are already over towards the Baron, and they have 1:30 here on the Elder, so they can use that to clean this one out. More items coming through now for EG. JoJo just playing guard duty. Oh, he's gone!
Woo! I think this is a good time for a segue. Grab your exclusive Scare Prize Prime Gaming emote for when you jump over a wall and, hey, blow someone up out of nowhere. Well done, Jojo Pyun. I think in my mind I saw that emote over his head, so well
19
done.
stacks on the Magi's now. Playing with that confidence that you love to see. EG, very dominant here against PSG. A 28-minute win as well against, Saigon Buffalo. So clearly looking as though they are that step above the other teams, on the kind of bottom half here at MSI. And it remains to be seen if they can really step up and take that fight to RNG, T1, G2, who have been the big dogs. But this is a very important win for EG. They can be really happy about how they played in this game.
Yep. And so securely looking like the number 4 team, although we'll see if they can punch above their weight in future games in the Rumble stage. But PSG never really threatened them. Unless you think their scaling was far better, it was never about to be an EG loss. Looking now at the final bits of this game, 34-30 on the clock. Looking a little bit more. Nice Mega Gnar. Hanabi going to try his best, but against a Baron, it's not going to happen. There's another kill on the board. Impact gets his 4th right now as he got 6 for the Wonder Twins here. JoJo Pyun and Danny both killing a dozen between them. And now we get the Nexus for itself. Impact is going to go for the swag stopwatch.
Strike pose.
Ult is available. Nexus will fall. Evil Geniuses rise to 2-2.
Nicely done by EG. Really important win for them, for their hopes at making the knockout stage here. Moving to 2-2. Sitting alone in 4th place, they're going to be right now. Of course, there are some more games to play. We can see what does shift around, but of course, the favorites to maintain their position there. And it's an important game, I think, from JoJo. Again, I think he's been turning in some really strong games. 3 games in a row now, I think he's performed pretty well. The Rise, the TF game previous to that as well, I think we're all good. And it's really nice to see him picking up some steam. This one still seemed a little bit hesitant there from Danny, I think, at times, but it was a solid game. He got that goal lead, was a big contributor in team fights, only having that one death, a really good engage from Kaiwing and follow-up from Hanabi. But really, EG were cruising in this one, looking very, very